Hi, this is Mashnu, and well, as you know, yesterday the Chess Olympiad started in Istanbul, Turkey, and well, we see often in the first round of this Chess Olympiad that the pairing of the teams is well with big differences in playing strength. So we see a lot of results like 3 against 1 or 4 against 0, and that's what happened also this time. The United States won by 4 against 0 against Jordan, and on board 1 was playing the famous Grandmaster Kamsky for the USA against an international master, Kader from Jordan, and that's the game that I want to show you. But before we start that, I would like to tell you that the Dutch team seems to have some trouble with the players, in the sense that our number 1 player, Anish Giri, was not allowed to enter Turkey. He had some trouble with his passport, I believe, and he wasn't allowed to enter. So I hope this trouble with this official things will be solved today, so he can participate starting from the second round, because he's of course the strongest player from the Netherlands, Anish Giri, and we would like very much to see him in action. Well, let's have a look at this game now. It's Kader playing with white pieces against Kamsky with black from the United States. So white played here the first move, d4, and we have this Queen's Gambit, and after knight f3, knight f6, knight to c3, black plays a6. The move a6 is a preparation to, after taking on c4, defend the pawn on c4 by playing b5, and it leads often to very exciting fights, because white gets, after e4 later, a strong control in the center, and black is of course a pawn up. So there's always the question whether the compensation for white is enough to win this game, or the pawn, the material advantage of black will be decisive. Let's have a look. After a6, g3 was played, so white is placing his bishop on g2. e6 played by black, bringing the bishop out of the pawn chain before playing e6. Castle kingside, knight b to d7, and now knight to h4. White wants to get rid of this well-placed bishop, and that's something that cannot be avoided, so black plays bishop to g6, and here the bishop is taken, and then h takes. g6 opens this important h-file. Now white plays e4, and black takes on c4. After queen to e2, black plays the move b5. So, as we have seen in many games, black tries to hold on to this pawn that he has won, and white has strong control here in the center with these 2 pawns and this bishop placed on this important diagonal. The knight is also directed to the center, and take a look at this king. It's still there in the center, and we have learned ages ago in the book My System by Nimzowitsch that when the opponent's king is in the center, we should try to open the position to attack it, and that's exactly what international master Kader did in this game. He played the move d5 here, and the question is whether it's a good idea to do it right now, or he should perhaps have waited first and developed his pieces. The rook on a1, the bishop on c1 are all pieces that are not participating in the attack. So perhaps a move like bishop to e3 or bishop to f4 would have been a better idea. Well, I don't know exactly. d5 was played in the game. the counterpart of d5 is that it leaves these two squares c5 and e5 with less control. So black plays now immediately knight to e5, and this knight is going to d3. Strong square for the knight. There are no more pawns on c2 or e2, so this knight on d3 can be a real monster. Now here white took on e6, black took back with the f pawn, and now white played bishop to f4, attacking the knight. And perhaps we would expect that now black plays knight to d3, but Kamsky was careful, and that's a very wise thing to do in this kind of positions where your opponent is attacking. Be careful, don't make any decisions that are risky. So he didn't play knight to d3. We can have a look if knight to d3 here. The thing is that white can play here e5, and after e5 he's not only threatening to take this knight on f6 but also threatening to take on c6. There is a solution for black, and that's to play knight to d5, blocking this diagonal, saving the knight, but then still white can try to find some attacking ideas, for example by, well, first retreating this bishop perhaps to d2, but then playing the other bishop to e4 to target g6. Those could be ideas. I find the position very beautiful for black, but Kamsky decided not to play knight d3 right now. This move can wait. He played queen to b8. Now if white takes this knight on e5, then probably later the other knight will be rerouted and reach d3 anyway. So white prefers to stay with this bishop's pair, and so black doesn't need to worry about white taking the knight on e5. We can also say that black is doing a strange thing, since he's pinning his own knight actually by playing the queen to b8. But the thing is that white cannot make easily use of this pin, because this bishop will be easily chased away, for example by knight to h5, and then the bishop must make a decision there. Notice also that the dark squares are very available for this bishop on f8, so if white misses his dark square bishop later, then black has a very interesting position controlling all these dark squares. So white must try not to trade this bishop on f4. In the game, rook a to d1 was played now, so white is bringing his pieces more into play. Now bishop to c5, developing a piece, making use of these dark squares, and now knight to d5 was played. So white is trying to attack immediately, trying to make use of this king in the center of the opponent. And this sacrifice knight to d5 is very interesting, because here Kamsky decided not to take the knight. If this knight is taken, let's say c takes d5, then e takes d5 follows, and now we see that the center is really being opened now. Now white is already threatening to take on e5, winning a piece back, so black should defend now with bishop to d6, and here perhaps it's an idea simply to take and then to play, for example, d6, threatening to take now the bishop with the queen. This pawn seems also to be dangerous, and the bishop is attacking the rook on a8, so it leads to very active play for white if this knight is taken. So Kamsky made here a very wise decision, and that is not to take this knight. He played a nice move, the move g6 to g5, attacking the bishop on f4. And now if this bishop takes this pawn, then of course we can take this knight. Now this bishop is not longer pinning this knight on e5, so now e takes d5 is possible. After e takes, then we can castle kingside to bring the king into safety, and we are a piece up here. So this is actually a very complex position, and I'm sure that Kamsky must have spent quite some time calculating the different possibilities before deciding this move g5. In the game here, white played bishop to e3, and black trades this bishop, and white retakes with the knight, and then black plays g4. So we see now that white has lost his pair of bishops. Black has now this beautiful open file, and this pawn is controlling f3 and h3. Rook to d2 was played, so trying to double up the rooks on the d file. Queen to c7, f4 now. Black takes en passant on f3, bishop takes back, and now king to e7. So black realizes that his king can be safe in the center now. There is no dark square bishop of white any longer, so the chances of an attack of opening the center further is have diminished, also because this pawn on e6 cannot be traded by another pawn. So the king looks more or less safe there on e7, and now black is connecting his rooks. Bishop to g2 was played, and now rook to h6, so preparing to bring the other rook to h8 and threaten some nasty things against h2. And now white again sacrificed a piece, or tried to sacrifice a piece. He played knight to d5 one more time, and this time the sacrifice was taken. This time with white you don't get enough compensation for this knight. E takes was played, e takes d5, and after e takes d5, queen b6 check, king to h1, and now have a look at this. Rook takes h2, winning. After king takes h2, knight f to g4 check, and there is no way to save the game now. The threat is of course that if the king goes to h3, then we have rook to h8 checkmate, and if the queen takes on g4, this is what happened in the game, then we simply retake with check. After king h3, knight to e3, not only threatening to take the rook on f1, but also threatening rook to h8 checkmate. So let's go back just a moment to this crazy sacrifice, knight to d5. Actually, with this sacrifice we can say that it's not white, it's black that got the attack. So how would we evaluate this position? So if not this sacrifice, knight to d5 is played, but something different, then still the black position looks very nice. These pawns will later become dangerous. Black has these two strong knights that are ready to enter. For example, on d3, one of them, and this we have this open h file. So the position is really promising for black. White decided to go for an all or nothing game, and well, he got nothing. After e takes, we have this check on the diagonal, so the king must move, because if we play queen to f2, then simply queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and now c takes d5, and you see white is simply a pawn, black is simply a piece up after this simplification. So white cannot allow this to happen. This would simply lead, even after bishop takes d5, we simply trade everything, trade, take, and we are simply a piece up. So this is really hopeless for white. There is no compensation for the piece. So okay, That's what happened in this first round of the Chess Olympiad 2012. Okay, I'll say goodbye now, and I hope you found this an interesting game to watch. Alright, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.